as a dancer, you are continually evolving and learning and putting into practice what gets fed back to you. And SEO is no different. If you're not evolving, learning, and putting into practice SEO, you're going to get stale. You've got to allow people to explore interests outside of their job to give them that satisfaction that they may so deeply crave.
Welcome to another episode of Mospod. My name is Chima Meje, your host, and our guest today is James Miller. James, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Really happy to be here.
James is the Senior SEO Analyst at WeSignal. James is an experienced digital marketer specializing in SEO, social media, and content writing. He's also an experienced certified ballroom dancer and teaches at County Dance, which is one of the UK's top ballroom and Latin schools. James also has the best hair in the industry.
Thank you. I did get it cut yesterday, no lie.
Today, we're talking about what ballroom dancing can teach you about SEO. If you find anything interesting from this episode, please use the hashtag Mospod, tag us, and share your insights on social media. James, how did you enter the world of ballroom dancing? And what drew you to this particular form of dance?
Oh, wow. So I started dancing at about 9 years old. And many dancers my age grew up watching Strictly Come Dancing. And I remember it being on the TV in mum's room. We just sat there watching it. And I just thought, I'd like to do that. And my parents were like, really, James? You tried piano, you tried violin, let's see what happens. And then the journey just spiraled from there. Did my first class and then followed on and
let's pause on your first class. You did your first class. How was that? What was that feeling?
Really good question. My first class, I was really, really nervous, but it just felt natural. It really, really did feel natural because it was me and my sister at the time. We were, dancing together. She learned as well as I did. And it just felt good. Really did just feel good.
And that was how you started ballroom dancing?
That is it, yeah. Something you see off a TV.
And you've been doing that ever since?
Yeah, ever since. Never stopped.
So I imagine SEO came after, obviously, because nobody was doing SEO at 9 years old.
You never know these days. So many prodigies around.
How did you get into the SEO industry?
So I got into the SEO industry through my apprenticeship. When I left school, I didn't want to go to university. I didn't want to go down that route.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
It just, for me, right, I'll give you, to be honest, it was because I didn't want to be away from home. I was a very homely child and I liked my comforts. And I felt, for me, it just wouldn't have worked for me. Because I was going to go and study event management, but that just didn't happen. So I then looked at getting an apprenticeship because I was volunteering for a charity and I was running their social media, setting up their website. And I thought, okay, I can actually get a career in this without going to university. And then I did my application, got placed in a workplace. And it all started from there. One of their big focuses in that business was getting really good quality traffic from Google. And that was one of my sort of main targets and what I was pushed towards doing. And I fell in love with it. It was great.
So how did you even start learning how to get a website on Google as an apprentice?
Well, funny you say that, which is hilarious, but I was reading a lot of Moz and I was reading a lot of the articles around at the time and just doing some research. In that job, I didn't have really...
What year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you've been around for a longer time,
I know. But so when I was starting and in this workplace, I didn't have the support and guidance of an experienced marketer to actually push me up and develop me and develop my skill set. I had to teach myself. And that was hard learning, but it was good learning. So I became really, really well versed in reading articles, putting things into practice, learning about. One of the things I did was I actually brought a book and that taught me what schema markup is. And I was then recommending to our developers, okay, can we look at getting some schema code put on these pages?
Wow. So you started learning SEO in 2015 while you were an apprentice.
Yeah.
And then you started with resources like the Moz blog, reading a lot of articles, and then you found schema markup through a book.
Yeah.
And you just took it to the developers at the place where you did your apprentice and making recommendations to developers
Yes.
as an apprentice. They must have been like, who is this child?
Oh, to be honest, right, it was quite the opposite, but that's a story for another podcast about crazy work cultures. They just thought, what's he doing now? But hey ho, I know now that I was doing the right thing.
Awesome. So how has SEO changed since 2015 when you were an apprentice coming into the industry and now in 2024? And how have you adapted to those changes?
Yeah, so little baby James back in 2015 was really, really focused on keyword insertion. That was one of the things that I was looking at a lot of. And my director at the time, he had limited SEO knowledge. He knew what it was and he got me on that path. But he basically said, right, can we add this keyword here? Can we add this keyword there? And that worked back then. But what I've seen change now is content quality. And that's a big thing because, anyone can add 100 keywords to a page. Anyone can write shit. But what people want now is really good quality that satisfies the reason why they're searching in the first place. And then the biggest adaptation that I've had to do is really research my audience. What do they want? What stage of the journey are they at? How can I create the best asset that is going to satisfy them and then take them further down the funnel? So that's the biggest change that I've seen personally.
Around content quality.
Yeah.
Around understanding your audience and that journey that takes them through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're saying that content is like the heart of ranking on search engines these days. Am I interpreting that right?
I would say it's one element of ranking in search engines because, again, you have a technical side. You can have the best content in the world, but if your site is not being crawled or indexed, who's going to see it?
True that. Okay, so I can imagine that ballroom dancing requires precision, requires discipline, requires rhythm. How do these elements translate into doing SEO strategy?
They translate a lot. So, for example, as a dancer, you are continually evolving and learning and putting into practice what gets fed back to you. And SEO is no different. So you can't, again, as we just mentioned earlier about the tactics that are being used in 2015, you can't do what you did about 8 or 9 years ago and expect it to work. As an SEOs, we have to develop. Again, algorithms are changing, user behavior is changing. If you're not evolving, learning, and putting into practice SEO, you're going to get stale. And that's probably one element of discipline that I'm really grateful for in dance that transcends into my work. I don't want to be stale. I don't want to, not have that success by basically resting on my laurels. And it's the same in dance. You can't rest on your laurels, ever.
I love that. So as a dancer, you are continually evolving. You continuously evolve your skill, your talent, what you're bringing to your audience so that people don't get bored and so that you don't get stale. And then you translate that into SEO by continuously learning so that you have like your foot on the heartbeat of what is happening in the industry.
You have to.
Okay, so what life lessons have you learned from being a ballroom dancer? And think deeply about this one. Think
deeply. Well, one of my teachers, Mary, has this phrase, and I think this could be applicable to most things in life, even though it's a very dance-based phrase. And she says, with ballroom, you are one person with 4 legs. So do you know what I mean by that? So again, in ballroom, you've got right side to right side lead, and your legs are connected and whatnot. So in order to dance, you've got to communicate.
That's a lot of coordination.
Oh, I know. You've got to coordinate yourself with your partner and communicate effectively. And that can really, really be applied to any form of life, in relationships, in, personal or in the career. You have to communicate and be on the same level of understanding. And it's the same when you're working in-house or with clients. Basic communication is key. Clear, concise, and getting to the heart of what, the success or the challenge is.
So do you have 4 hands for doing SEO?
I wish, because if I had 4 hands for SEO, the amount of content briefs would be flying out would be amazing.
All right. I think you've already answered my next question, which was going to be like, how have these lessons affected your work ethic with SEO? And you've just answered that by saying that it's all about communications with your clients to make sure that you're on the same page about the results that you're trying to get for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But also with colleagues as well. So one of the things that I've struggled with is actually communication in the workplace, because I'm better at it in dance, but not in workplace environments, because again, crazy career starting out at 18 in some very crazy place. But one of the things that I've been getting better is communicating my basic needs with my colleagues. And again, if I can communicate it in dance, I can communicate it in work. So being open. How so? In what way? Sorry.
Like how so? You said if you can communicate it in dance, you can communicate it in work.
Yeah. So for example, if I don't understand something in dance, for example, my teacher will say, James, can you do a bounce fall away into a tumble turn? I'm just like, okay, where does my head go? I would feel comfortable asking that. But sometimes in workplace situations, I've not been that good at saying, look, I don't understand that. I need some support. And it's just basically getting over my own bullshit of being seen as not good enough to say, hang on, I am good enough. I just need a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help from anyone. And that's actually one of the big things I've worked on in my personal development whilst at Resignal, is just being open as possible to just saying, look, I need some help. I need some guidance.
And have you received guidance when you've asked for it?
Oh, I've received guidance, support, and, and everything really. So it's just getting over my own internal stuff really for that.
I think that's something that so many people struggle with in the workplace, asking for help, because you don't want to be seen as dumb or as like a fraud.
Yeah.
And then you just go and use the internet to figure it out yourself instead of asking someone who actually knows the job how to do it. I don't understand. Like, why do we struggle with asking for help?
Yeah, I think based on what you said, you don't want to be seen as dumb or not experienced, because we know that SEO is a really, really skilled industry. And, a lot of people I've seen in SEO talk about imposter syndrome. And that's something that I sometimes battle with. So I think it's just getting over that and just saying, look, we're human. We all need help. So go and ask for it and you'll be fine.
All right, let's break for hot take. What is the one thing that frustrates you the most about SEO or the industry?
The one thing that frustrates me is, to be honest, clients not implementing your recommendations. I mean, they spend money on what we do, and they spend money for our expertise and time and care. And we make these beautiful slide decks, these beautiful data sheets, these beautiful pieces of work that are going to help them drive more quality traffic and more revenue and more success for their business. It just sits in their inbox. And you go around to the next client call and it's like, look, have you looked at this? Yeah, we're looking at it. Come on now. SEO return on investment is hard to calculate, but we do suspect if you are going to do this, you are going to see a return on that investment. So get the ball rolling. But then you've got to remember there's other factors in the business than marketing that they may need to address.
Like what?
Well, then again, they could be having budget issues that we're not aware of. They could be having other pressures, for example, lack of investment. That's one that I've seen in previous jobs. There could be other things that may just take away their focus from marketing. Because again, some clients or businesses, they may not have like a marketing specialist in-house to champion these changes. So you're dealing with someone who may not have that experience or may not have that insight or passion that we do as marketers. Again, we're dealing with humans at the end of the day, and they all have their own agendas.
That is interesting because I've never thought about it that way. I've always been that if you have the money to hire somebody to do an audit for you and to tell you what you need to be fixing, then you should have the money to make these changes, because then why are you getting the audit if you're not going to implement it?
Yeah, but then again, how much do we really, really know about what goes on in a business, barring what we're told at face value? We don't work in the business. We're an extension of their team. So we can only go on what the person managing the relationship says, We never fully know.
True. So I imagine that balancing the dual career in SEO and ballroom dancing must come with some unique challenges.
Yes.
How do you find the balance between both?
How I find the balance is I'm very, very lucky. So at Resignal, we're fully remote. Where I live is a 15-minute walk from a dance studio. So when I finish up a day's work, I give myself a half an hour break, get changed, then go to a dance studio. So I've got my foundation sorted. However, one of the big things that I've experienced is fatigue and energy levels. So I've done a lot of research into this just because, again, I'm neurodiverse, I've got ADHD, and I want to manage my attention and productivity the best I can. And one of the things that I've learned is that I've got to be really careful about what work I do based on my state of attention.
Explain.
So, for example, it's from Graham Alcott, who wrote the book How to Be a Productivity Ninja. And we all have different states of attention. I think there's active, inactive, and there's one other which I can't remember off the top of my head. So my active attention is where I'm like raring to go, firing all cylinders. I could get something done that would take a week, maybe in half an hour if I'm really going for it. Obviously, in theory, that would never happen ever. But they also have inactive attention where my brain, the post-lunch slump, your brain doesn't want to be doing a full-blown technical audit or making recommendations. It wants to be doing something a bit more menial. So maybe looking at some keyword positions, looking at Search Console as such. So being careful how I manage my energy and attention has been a challenge. For example, coming back off a competition. So, out competing on Sunday, don't get back in till about maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night. You're going to be tired. So managing my energy levels has been the biggest challenge, but one that I've actually really lucky to have found some balance with.
If you've been keeping up with SEO updates, then you probably know that keyword research must align with search intent or it just doesn't work. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Identifying funnel-based intent might look simple, but quickly becomes complicated as search intent evolves. How do you know when search intent changes? What if a commercial keyword is actually an informational keyword? Rather than playing guesswork, our new Keyword Explorer powered by AI simplifies your research with high-value keywords optimized for search intents. Whether your goal is to generate revenue with commercial keywords or educate your audience with informational content, Moz AI helps you maximize every dollar out of your SEO budget to achieve your marketing goals. Have there been any moments where you have to prioritize one or the other?
Well, this is based on something my nan would say. Bless her. Nan, if you're watching, love you. So she says, James, your main job is the most important thing. Nothing can go above it. If you're tired from dance, you need to take a step back and focus on your job. So I've been using that mentality because, again, I'm not a full-time dancer or a full-time teacher. I'm a full-time SEO. That takes my priority. So dance will never, ever go above that. So that's it, that's how I basically prioritize myself in my career as both. Dance is something that I can do as and when I've got the time and energy. But if SEO takes up that time, that is what I'm paid to do mainly. So I need to focus on that with my best intention.
I love the found the balance and that you've also made choices with your priorities so that you're not pulling yourself at two ends.
No, because that's the worst thing. That's one thing that I've done in the past in other situations where I'm being pulled in various different directions and it doesn't work. I'm not butter. You can't spread yourself that thin. So having a really key focus on my main job and anything additional on top of that, where it fits in, that's really been advantages in making sure that I'm not,
it has to fit in.
It does. It really does.
Okay, have there been any surprising skills you found to be applicable in both ballroom dancing and SEO?
Oh, yes. And I'm going to say this with my chest. Dealing with humans. Dealing with humans.
Explain. You have to give me some story. Give me some examples.
Right, I can't name anyone.
Yes, but just anonymize them and say person A or something.
So have you ever seen Dance Mums with Abby Lee Miller?
Yes.
And whatnot?
Obviously. They're
they're very real.
Yes.
Right? They're very, very real.
I know for a fact that those women are real.
Oh, yes. They're real. So you get the Dance Mums and whatnot. And sometimes they just like to go off on one and you just have to sit there and be like, yes, person A, that is fine. I will make sure I push your child to near breaking point as such. And it reminds me of dealing with clients as well. So again, it can be frustrating, right? When, either myself or a colleague pitches a really good idea to a client and they just don't get it and they're not on board with it. So no matter what the data says, no matter how good of a recommendation it is, they just won't get on board with it. And it reminds me of these dance mums. You can tell them and their child 100 things about what their child needs to do. But is it my child?
Nope.
No. It's their child and they are the parent and they see what's best for it. And that's sometimes the case with clients, as much as we are providing the best guidance, the best experience for them, etc., that business is their baby and they can guard it, protect it and nurture it in any way possible as they see fit because they're in that chair to do so.
Basically, what I'm hearing is that you can't parent a child for another parent.
Yes, literally.
And you cannot run a client's business for them. You can provide the advice, but it has to be them making those decisions at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And that helps you to pull back and not get too invested or frustrated when they're not implementing the changes that you recommend.
Yeah.
Because I know that can be heartbreaking.
It is. As I said, you spend all this time and this money getting us to do all these great pieces of work and it just sits there gathering dust. But you just have to, like you said, remove yourself personally and just chill.
What has been the most rewarding project you've worked on at Signal?
Am I able to have two?
Okay.
Please. Because I'm really proud of these. Okay. So one of my big focuses at Resingle is just actually getting more in front of a clients. And they gave me a really good task to do for a client where I had to put together an entire informational content strategy from cradle to the grave. And I did that with, again, they gave me some really good instructions, but I did that with minimal help. And from the client, they said, right, we have some limitations on what we can write about. This has already been covered. This is where we want to see our focus. So I was spending a lot of my time researching these great ideas and putting them together in a beautiful document and spreadsheet where they could see the actual impact that would have on their site. And it was brilliant. And they then commissioned, again, 20 of these articles and we supported them with the content writing. And now in time, those articles will be uploaded onto the site. So I can say, hang on, I researched that, I put that together, I gave them that idea. And that's something I'm really, really proud of.
I love how happy and proud you
But
are
it
right
does,
now.
like it's
Taking a project from conception to the finish line. That feeling is so good, because taking ownership allows you to also take ownership of the results. And then you can say, I did this, nobody else. I did this. I own these results.
Yes.
High five. Can we stretch high five?
Just battle the microphone. But no, it really did make me so happy. Again, the client was so pleased with what we suggested. And it's just
what was the second one?
The second one, this is mainly based on my colleague's reaction. So it's for the same client. I had a task to look at how the client could get some image tiles in the SERP results that show alongside the organic listings. And my manager sent me a case study, and he said, James, just follow this case study and see what you come up with. So I followed it and I looked at the instructions and I thought, okay, right, this is what this person's looking at. So I was doing all this testing and all this research. And I said to my colleague, Callum, I said, right, are we able to run through this? Because I think I may have found it, but I was I was so not sure. I said, can we just run through this? And I went through it and he goes, James, you figured it out. And it only took I think about 2-3 hours, considering I was given I think it was a day or two to look at it. And he's like, oh my God, I'm actually really impressed. You figured this out so quickly and given the right recommendation. So I'm just it's just to have that support and recognition from a colleague.
Especially someone you respect.
Yeah, majorly. So to have that and to be praised for it, I just thought it was nice. And to be honest, that's one of the first times in my professional career I actually had genuine praise and appreciation for the work I've done, which is crazy, but I was so grateful for it.
Wow. Okay, I feel like to people who are managers that are watching this episode, please credit your team when they do great work. No matter how little, credit your team. Means a lot.
It really, really does.
Means a lot. We are recently certified to teach ballroom dance, and I remember because I saw the post on LinkedIn and you shared that. How's that going? Do you prefer teaching to just being a dancer?
Oh, well, with the qualification that I've done through the NATD, it enables me to keep an amateur status, so I can still compete at an amateur level. Because if I was to do a further teaching qualification, I'd be classed as professional. And I don't want to be a professional dancer at that level competing, because it is, like I was saying out earlier, I would have to give up my job to do that. And I don't want to do that. I want to have both. I want to have my current balance. So with this qualification, it basically means you're almost the way I think about it is you are a very experienced teaching assistant. So you can, again, cover where necessary, but you're not fully there yet. So that qualification has been an absolute godsend. It's really helped my dancing and understanding, how to teach and whatnot. Because again, you have to learn theory for this as well. Ballroom theory is hard. No bullshits about it. So yeah, that's been really, really good. But in terms of what I prefer, again, in the same way that I've got balance between SEO and ballroom, I've got balance now as a competitor and, a student teacher. So I can still compete. I can still work on my own development, which I'm so passionate about. But I can also go and use my experience to teach others.
You don't have to pick one or the other.
No, I in the words of Hannah Montana, I get the best of both worlds.
So for those who are considering a dual career, what advice would you give to them based on your experience?
Based on my experience, you have to make a prioritization. As I said earlier, that's really, really key. So whether you want to prioritize your main job or your, not so much side hustle, but your other passion, choose one, get that sorted. Then what you need to do is figure out how everything can fit around that one focal point. So again, for me, like I said, I'll never put dance above SEO. So just to give you an example, we've got Recommerce coming up next month from recording date. And I've said to my pupils, I am not teaching Thursday. I am not teaching Friday. You will not see me. You will not hear from me because I'll be at the conference and I need to be present for that. So figure that out first. But the key thing is you need to be in a workplace environment that supports you having these additional interests outside your jobs, because you're more than your job. I teach a lovely pupil and, she's got a hard job and she says to me, James, do you know what? This makes me so happy every week. I look forward to this. Not everyone is blessed to have a really, really happy work environment or a happy career. So you've got to allow people to explore interests outside of their job to give them that satisfaction that they may so deeply crave.
Hey friend, if you stuck around this far, I'll take it you're enjoying the podcast. Please hit the like button to show your support, subscribe to stay in the loop, and click the bell button to get notified when we release a new episode. Thank you. What is one thing you do every day that brings you a tiny pocket of joy?
Ooh, one of the things that I do every day, if not every day, every hour, is I always listen to music. I'm a big lover of music and a really obscure genres for my age. I'm big into jazz, rock and roll, swing, old school 50s, 60s rhythm and blues. So literally, like, I always have headphones on, bopping around to Postmodern Jukebox or Louise Ball-Quill or Billie Holiday. And music is a mood booster for me.
If I force you to pick one artist you could listen to for the rest of your life, who would it be?
God, you can't ask me to do that.
I said
Some of them will be watching, you know.
I'm forcing you right now, James. I'm putting you on the spot. Pick one
artist I could listen to for the rest of my life, hands down, Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox. I love them. They're amazing. I want to be them.
Awesome. That's it for today on Mosport. Don't forget to use the hashtag Mosport to share anything you found interesting on today's episode. Thank you to our guest, James Miller.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
This episode was engineered by Saul Fox, produced by Chima Meja and Joe Cameron, and our YouTube footage was filmed and edited by Sarah Garpin. Remember, curiosity didn't kill the cat. It just improved the search rankings. Bye-bye.